What Halo does to separate itself from other contemporary shooters is have an extremely varied sandbox act as the backbone of the series. You've got your conventional weapons such as rifles, but then you've got your unconventional weapons like the Needler or Gravity Hammer. Something to keep in your pocket and pull out when an opportunity presents itself. The poster child for this type of ancillary weapon is the Covenant Plasma Pistol. It's an incredibly clever idea for a weapon that benefits Halo in a lot of ways, both overtly and more subtly. Seeing as Halo is almost 20 years old, there's been many iterations of this device over the years, each one with its own quirks, gimmicks, and things that make it special. Let's take a trip through memory lane and explore each version of the plasma pistol. If you find yourself enjoying the video, liking, sharing, and subscribing would be most appreciated. And let's begin. The alien races we fight in Halo are integral to why the series works as well as it does. But what's more important than the incredibly lifelike and expressive AI is the weapons and tools they carry. An underappreciated sandbox choice that Combat Evolved made was to arm the Covenant with exclusively projectile-based weapons that need to travel to the player. This meant the player had enough room to bob and weave through gunfire, allowing for movement during its gunfights. One of the most common weapons found in the game is the iconic plasma pistol. It's a small piece of Covenant technology that's usually found carried by jackals and grunts. Mechanically, the plasma pistol is less of a pistol and more of an ancillary tool for draining shields. It can be fired in single shots as quickly as you can pull the trigger, but when holding the trigger down, the plasma in the gun can be overcharged, which produces this incredibly musical hum. And once released, this shot will home in on targets and drain the shields of whatever it comes into contact with. An interesting bit of trivia is the overcharge ability was actually meant for the plasma rifle initially, but prior to release, Bungie made the quick switch over to the plasma pistol. The overcharge files are still located in the plasma rifles folder in Combat Evolved. In the campaign, it became a good tool to combine with the pistol to perform a strategy affectionately referred to as the noob combo. Drain the shields of your enemy with the plasma pistol and then finish the enemy off with a headshot weapon. The noob combo was one of the best ways to optimize speed runs and legendary campaign runs. This doesn't mean it's entirely for the player's benefit though. In the hands of a grunt, the plasma pistol is used to sort of pepper the player in small, relatively harmless bursts. Just combat flavor more than anything. And in the hands of the jackal, it's designed to soften you up, which is where the elites can come in and finish you off. In a previous video, I described the plasma rifle as the backbone of the Covenant military, and that was a bit of a lie. Really, it's the plasma pistol that I think deserves that award. Its utility by and against the player is something special that I think each Halo thrives on. It would go on to appear in every incarnation of the series, its iconic overcharge hum sound, filling the eardrums of many young gamers. When I was young, I knew when kids were talking about Halo because eventually you could hear one of them across the cafeteria humming loudly, imitating the sound while pretending to hold an overcharged plasma pistol against their teachers. An interesting bit of trivia is the iconic plasma pistol hum might share DNA with another legendary Halo sound, the shield recharge sound. You see, in Combat Evolved, Bungie used a stock sound effect called sci-fi low-frequency modulation as the Master Chief's shield recharge sound. The theory is that Bungie may have taken this sound at its peak and merged it with another sound, maybe filtered it in a strange way. If I'm wrong about this, I'll correct it in the comment section, but I encourage anyone who might know more about this to reach out to me. I'm currently on a hunt for the source of most of Halo's iconic sounds. With Halo 2 came a new incarnation of the plasma pistol. Aesthetically, it remains unchanged from Combat Evolved minus a subtle purple gloss that was applied in certain lighting conditions, and a new set of animations. Disappointingly, Bungie removed a really cool particle effect from Combat Evolved where it would sort of burn into the surfaces that the overcharged shot would attach to. The view model was also changed to make it look a bit smaller in the Chief's hand. These are all fine, but how is it mechanically? The plasma pistol itself saw a reduction to its damage, ammo capacity, and fire rate, but as a trade-off, it received a pretty substantial buff to its tracking capabilities, which meant the noob combo became even more effective as a method for clearing levels. When taking into account the new dual-wielding system, you could throw a magnum into your left hand and become an unstoppable killing machine in both campaign and multiplayer. The plasma pistol went from being a pretty good optional ancillary tool to a must-have device for your pocket when running the campaign on Legendary. In the previous game, the plasma pistol wasn't too useful in the multiplayer, and here it was downright overpowered. The Legendary status of the noob combo was even recognized by Bungie, who immortalized it in a bonus cutscene provided in the Halo 2 multiplayer map pack disc. In this cutscene, A Day at the Beach, a squad of ODSTs utilize a noob combo to take down an elite who has one of their crew hostage. While Halo 2 was a pretty big shakeup for this tiny ray gun, even more changes were on the horizon for this little thing. Changes that would further define its place in the series. When dual-wielding was introduced, it was a pretty big shakeup for the plasma weapon, but in Halo 3, Bungie had this fascination with anti-vehicle weaponry. There were trip mines that you could lay down in popular vehicle paths, EMP devices to roll down hills, and massive no fun allowed devices in the form of the Spartan laser, which could obliterate vehicles. Those weren't enough though, as Bungie also included a small but pretty substantial change to how the plasma pistol's overcharge worked. You see, if it has the ability to overload shields, wouldn't it make sense if it could also overload electrical systems? With that line of thinking, the plasma pistol in Halo 3 would obtain the ability to overload all electrical systems on an overcharge, not just the energy shields, cementing itself as the all-purpose EMP gun for the Halo series, an identity that it would carry into the future. Aesthetically, it very much resembles the Halo 2 model, albeit with crisper textures and a lighter color scheme, complementing the yellow battery in the center. Mechanically, its homing capabilities were toned way down, and its overcharge now drains the plasma battery as the player holds it. Bungie also gave players the ability to throw grenades during an overcharge, which matters more than you'd think. Overall, the plasma pistol had found this happy little nest for itself. It was no longer overpowered in its tracking and stats, but to make up for these stat nerfs, it picked up a new little side use to coax players into keeping it in their pockets even if they couldn't reliably get kills with it. It also appeared in Halo 3 ODST, unchanged stat-wise, albeit without the dual-wielding system. When talking to popular speedrunner Pro Ace Joker, he said this and the Reach plasma pistol were possibly his favorite incarnations of the weapon due to the middle ground Bungie had found with the homing nerf and expanded EMP function. Here, in Halo 3, the plasma pistol felt as though it had finally settled on a role for itself, a role that would be carried into future games. Halo Reach would be the final Halo game developed by Bungie, and they decided to say their goodbye in the form of a prequel to the first Halo game, telling a militaristic story about the fall of Planet Reach. With this militaristic setting came a militaristic facelift to many of the series' designs and weapons. In the past, I complimented the redesign of the plasma rifle in Halo Reach for being an incredibly faithful but high-quality recreation of the original design, and my compliments are extended as well to the plasma pistol. Reach's plasma pistol is simply beautiful. It feels like Bungie used the new engine and technological advancements to make the plasma pistol they always envisioned in their heads. The silhouette hasn't been changed, but the small details, little modules on the gun that used to be textures are now fully 3D, and it just looks beautiful. When pulling the plasma pistol out, the character will switch it on, making the plasma pistol power up. It also helps that despite the technological improvement to the model, the plasma pistol's iconic hum when overcharging it never left. The plasma pistol still makes the same sound it made all those years ago, just modified to sound a bit more high quality. Beyond just the cosmetic changes, it received a few mechanical tweaks. Its battery values were adjusted so that it drains faster in multiplayer than it does campaign. Bungie removed the feature where the gun would misfire as the battery got lower, which is a disappointment, since that feature gave plasma weapons a lot of personality. And its overall damage got a substantial buff, killing a fully shielded player in just 10 shots instead of the previous 24 shots. This was probably done so the elites in the invasion game types for multiplayer could have something of a sidearm of their own to counteract the pistol, which is a bit of a shallow way to look at the plasma pistol, since Halo's sandbox thrives when the guns are trying to carve their own identities, instead of being a variant or counterpart of another gun. This kind of shallow approach to weapon sandbox design was unfortunately a seed planted in Halo 2 with the beam rifle versus the sniper, but right now, the plasma pistol was still unique enough to stand on its own, and the pure charisma oozing from its beautiful new design makes it a fan favorite incarnation for good reason. In the 2011 remaster of Halo Combat Evolved, Saber Interactive and 343 opted to use a lot of Reach assets to paint over the 2004 Gearbox PC port of Combat Evolved. The original Combat Evolved first-person animations actually line up quite well with this Reach model, something I can't say worked too well for weapons like the sniper or shotgun, which looked a bit awkward in Chief's hands. Its sound was modified to sound a bit crisper and high quality, while thankfully still retaining its iconic hum when overcharging it. A rather cool detail is that Saber recreated the really angry and aggressive looking plasma burns that overcharge shots left on surfaces. And as a bit of trivia, mechanically, this version of the plasma pistol is slightly different from the Bungie original. In the Gearbox PC port of Combat Evolved, the plasma pistol had slightly further range than the Bungie version on the original Xbox, and due to Combat Evolved Anniversary being built off of the Gearbox port, this also carried into the remaster. Halo 4 would be the final game developed on the Xbox 360, and with it came an artistic overhaul for the Halo universe. While many things got completely new redesigns, some designs from Reach were carried over, albeit with new paint jobs and textures to fit the new art style. The plasma pistol is one such model that was retained. 343 Industries used the Reach plasma pistol but repainted it a dark blue color to make it kinda look like a Rhino Beetle according to some of the concept art and notes. The holographic display on the back of the gun was replaced with a new one. It's a pretty cool looking holographic display. It almost looks like this holy ornament that's floating on the back of the gun. I'm actually a big fan of it. Unfortunately, beyond this, the plasma pistol in Halo 4 was a bit of a regression from Halo Reach's. Firstly, like many iconic sounds in Halo 4, the plasma pistol's ever memorable hum was taken out and replaced with something a bit less memorable. You aren't going to be finding kids in a school cafeteria affectionately recreating this sound. This plasma pistol also saw an incredibly substantial nerf to its battery to better balance it as a sidearm due to the loadout system in the multiplayer. The replacement of its charismatic overcharge hum, and the fact that it only had 50 shots or less than 4 overcharges before running on empty led to this plasma pistol being more or less rejected by the community. Whatever pros it had were overlooked by what many saw as just flat-out regressions. It's a pity because if the battery was buffed a little bit and the normal plasma pistol hum was restored, I could see myself rather liking this incarnation. Mechanically and damage-wise, it's certainly fine. As it sits though, this was a disappointment for fans of the plasma pistol. Fortunately, it was just a small bump in the otherwise smooth road ahead. In 2014, the Master Chief Collection released, and with it came Halo 2 Anniversary, which was an artistic makeover for the campaign and a completely new multiplayer suite made in the Halo 4 game engine. In the campaign, the plasma pistol was sporting the Halo 4 model, which is noticeable due to the hologram on the back, though it's been repainted to be a bit livelier in color and match the Halo 2 aesthetic more. I'll be honest, this is probably my favorite look for the plasma pistol in the whole series. With a fresh texture upgrade and some beautiful coloration and the inclusion of that really cool Halo 4 hologram, the plasma pistol felt like a truly alien and holy weapon of the Covenant. Its sounds were also changed, but unlike Halo 4, this plasma pistol saw a whole set of new sounds that very much tried to stay in the spirit of the old sounds. The new hum, while being lower pitched, was still very nostalgic and familiar sounding. It was clearly trying to evoke the old plasma pistol hum, and it's appreciated even if it sounds different. In the multiplayer, it still retains the Halo 4 model, but something with the shaders seems a bit off, which makes it look quite rubbery. It's very strange. In order to be in the spirit of the original Halo 2, this incarnation of the plasma pistol had to say goodbye to the ability to EMP vehicles, though a new mechanic was introduced to prevent players from holding an overcharge indefinitely. Now, when you overcharge a shot, the gun will eventually heat up, and then if it overheats, it will forcefully power down and drain the battery. The tracking capabilities were buffed to be like Halo 2's, and the damage per shot was nerfed, and it's an excellent gun to pair with the Magnum for the same reasons it was good in the original Halo 2. Due to the little quirks and intricacies of the Halo 4 engine, this did feel a bit more overpowered than the original Halo 2 one, and I would normally call this the most overpowered plasma pistol in the series, but if I did that, I would be speaking too soon. An interesting bit of trivia is, remember that day at the beach cutscene I told you about? It was remastered for Halo 2 Anniversary, and it is beautiful. With Halo 5 Guardians on Xbox One, whatever was left of Reach's assets were thrown out in favor of completely new designs that matched the new beetle-like shellfish look of the Covenant. The plasma pistol was no different. As the civil war within the ranks of the elites heated up on their homeworld of San Helios, new weaponry was needed. Ancient forges were brought online, and the galaxy saw a boom in alien technology. Entirely new models of phantoms, ghosts, etc. were being mass-produced and brought to San Helios to fight in the Civil War. In this alien arms race, we saw a new model for the plasma pistol. It's the biggest artistic change that the weapon had ever received. It's much, much wider and rounder than it used to be. The hologram on the back was simplified a bit, and now the plasma pistol can be cracked open in a more organic way to vent plasma. Unfortunately, the sound was further changed, leaning even further away from the classic hum, much to some folks' annoyance, myself included. Overall, it's a very interesting take on the plasma pistol, and while it may not be a looker per se, under the hood, it's quite interesting in how it performs and what changes were made. The plasma pistol's role was modified quite a bit to keep up with Halo 5's unpredictable player movements and enhanced mobility. Its tracking was aggressively strong and fast. Aiming down the sights would also extend the range, allowing for tracking across most maps, which has led to this being considered something of a power weapon in multiplayer. Its tracking capabilities can even curve around corners, making it very hard to escape from when the player launches an overcharged shot at you. In the Warzone game type, it's a winning strategy to combine the plasma pistol with something like a gunfighter magnum, or make use of the quick switching perk, so that you can drain Spartan shields at a long range and then quickly swap to a headshot weapon. While it's definitely quite overpowered, I thought it was rather interesting to see the plasma pistol shake itself up to keep up with the new gameplay rhythms. In talking to Shyway about the plasma pistol's change in weapon roll, he said, well, it's not how he'd prefer the plasma pistol to be. He understands that the choices made to overpower it were due to how enhanced mobility changed the way the sandbox was designed. His friend, Toolscasts on Twitter, even jokingly called the thing a poor man's sniper due to its range and tracking buff. Like most weapons in Halo 5, the plasma pistol comes with a variety of rec weapons that can be found in loot boxes and spawned in Forge or used in Warzone. And while the first variant of these plasma pistol recs isn't that creative, the second one is super interesting. Let's go over them. The first variant is the Spitfire. It's a plasma pistol with a 25% range buff, a damage buff that lets you kill fully shielded players in just 5 shots, and a battery that just doesn't drain as quickly. The second variant is really cool. This is the Void's Tear, or Void's Tear, depending on who you're arguing with online. This thing is quite cool. Shots with it can knock players back a bit with concussive plasma rounds, and when charging it up, the impact when you release will create a gravitational vortex that pulls in everything nearby and disables all electronic equipment caught inside the vortex. The description of the weapon suggests that this might have been an accidental modification to a normal plasma pistol, unintentionally creating a black hole gun. It's a really cool idea for a weapon that I hope is divorced from the plasma pistol and turned into a proper gravity tool of its own in future Halo games. I like this thing. If it weren't for the Needler, I'd probably say the plasma pistol was the most memorable firearm of the Covenant. From its song-like hum when overcharged to the way it grew into a reliable EMP generator, it's a weapon I'm happy we're going to be seeing more of. While Halo Infinite may be a ways away, what little we've seen has indicated that the Banished will be rocking the Halo 5 plasma pistol model, but sporting a new color scheme and hopefully more classic-inspired sounds. What's your favorite incarnation of the plasma pistol? What would you like to see me cover next? I'm thinking of doing the Warthog or SMG. Let me know in the comment section down below. And by the way, I've got a Discord that is up, so check the description if you would like to join. And if you enjoyed the video, a like, a share, and a subscription would be appreciated. And I'll see you guys on the next video.